Hello friends, I welcome you in lecture number 6 on residue integration of real integrals. In this lecture we will discuss another application of Cauchy's residue theorem in evaluating improper integral. So here we are asked to evaluate this improper integral 0 to infinity x square over x raised to 6 plus 1 using Cauchy's residue theorem. So we just recall that if we have this type of integral from minus infinity to infinity fx dx, where fx is a rational function, that is division of two polynomials px and qx, and suppose this qx is non-zero for every x on the real axis and degree of qx is strictly greater than 1 plus degree of p, then this improper integral is convergent, and using Cauchy's residue theorem, value of this improper integral is 2 pi I times sum of residues of f of z, sum of residues of f of z at poles in the upper half plane, at poles of f of z in the upper half plane. So this is the formula which we are applying from last 5 or 4 lectures. I have discussed how this formula is coming. So if you want to understand the method that how we have derived this formula, you can visit lecture number 1 on residue integration of real integrals. So if these two conditions are satisfied, this improper integral is convergent, and value of this improper integral is 2 pi I times sum of residues of complex function f of z at poles of f of z in the upper half plane, where f of z is the complex function corresponding to this function. So with this in mind, we try to evaluate this integral. So first we denote our function by fx. So let fx equal to given function is x square divided by x raised to 6 plus 1. So it is clear that this x raised to 6 plus 1 is non-zero for every x on the real axis, and the degree of this x raised to 6 plus 1 is 6, which is strictly greater than 1 plus degree of numerator, which is x square, and degree of x square is 2. So these two conditions are satisfied here. Qx is non-zero for every x belongs to R, and degree of q is strictly greater than 1 plus degree of p. So we can apply Cauchy's residue theorem. So for that we consider corresponding complex function. So let f of z be z square divided by z raised to 6 plus 1. Okay, this we obtain by replacing x by z everywhere in this real function. So if we compare this with p over q, suppose this is equal to p over q, then we have numerator is denoted by pz, which is z square, and qz is z raised to 6 plus 1. Now this f of z is a rational function, so poles of f of z will be zeros of qz, that is poles of f of z will be those values of z for which this z raised to 6 plus 1 becomes 0. So first we find out zeros of qz, or first we solve z raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0. So this gives me z raised to 6 equal to minus 1, and this implies z is minus 1 to the power 1 by 6. So we have to find out 6th root of minus 1. Okay, so for that we know that formula, that if z is in the polar form, z equal to r into cos theta plus I sin theta, then, and of course z is non-zero complex number, then nth root of z is given by this formula, r raised to 1 by n cosine of theta plus 2k pi divided by n plus I sine theta plus 2k pi divided by n, where k is from 0, 1, 2 up to n minus 1. And if we wish, we can write this in shortly in exponential form using Euler's formula. This we can write as e raised to I times theta plus 2k pi divided by n, k equal to 0, 1, 2 up to n minus 1. So for calculating this minus 1 raised to 1 by 6, first we have to find out modulus of minus 1, which is r. So for minus 1, r is modulus of minus 1, which is obviously 1, and value of theta means angle made by this vector representing minus 1 with positive x-axis. So this angle is nothing but pi. Okay, this is x-axis, this is y-axis. So for minus 1, theta is pi, or argument of minus 1 is pi. So we put r equal to 1 and theta equal to pi, and we will obtain minus 1 raised to 1 by 6. So using that formula, minus 1 raised to 1 by 6 equal to r raised to 1 by 6, that is 1 raised to 1 by 6 e raised to I times theta plus 2k pi divided by n. N is 6 here, and k runs from 0, 1, 2 up to n minus 1. Here n is 6, so we have to go up to 6 minus 1, that is 5. So therefore minus 1 raised to 1 by 6 is 1 raised to 1 by 6 is 1. Here 1 is considered as a real number, and this we can rewrite as e raised to, we can take pi common, so we can rewrite this as 2k plus 1 times pi times I divided by 6. K runs from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So these are the 6 possible 6 roots of minus 1, and these are the solutions of this equation z raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0. And it is clear that none of these roots will lie on x-axis. Okay, we can represent these roots in the xy plane. Okay, if we put k equal to 0, we will have e raised to, for k equal to 0, we have e raised to pi I by 6. Okay, so we can write here the 6 possible roots are, suppose we denote them by, say, C0 is the first root corresponding to k equal to 0. So if we put k equal to 0, we have e raised to pi I by 6. Then C1 will be e raised to, C1 corresponds to k equal to 1. So if we put k equal to 1, we have e raised to 3 pi I by 6. For k equal to 1, this is going to be, so this is pi I by 2, and e raised to pi I by 2 can be simplified as cos pi by 2 plus I sin pi by 2. Cos pi by 2 is 0, sin pi by 2 is 1. So we have, for k equal to 1, C1 is simply I. Then we put k equal to 2 and we find out what we obtain. So for k equal to 2, this is going to be 2 into 2 plus 1, that is, this will be 5 pi I by 6. So e raised to 5 pi I by 6. Then C3 means k equal to 3. The root corresponding to k equal to 3 will be 3 into 2, 6 plus 1, 7 pi I by 6. So e raised to 7 pi I divided by 6. Similarly, C4, for k equal to 4, we have if we put k equal to 4 here, we have 8 plus 1 9 pi I by 6, and we can cancel out 3 here, so here we are left with e raised to 3 pi I by 2. Okay, 3 will cancel out, and this is going to be cos 3 pi by 2 plus I sin 3 pi by 2. Cos 3 pi by 2 is 0, sin 3 pi by 2 is minus 1, so it is minus I. For k equal to 4, we obtain minus I, and finally for k equal to 5, we have 5 into 2 10 plus 1 11 pi I by 6. So C5 is e raised to 11 pi I divided by 6. Okay, so all these roots are, because here modulus of minus 1 is 1, all these roots are located at a distance 1, or all these roots are on the unit circle. Okay, so all these roots are on the unit circle, and we can represent them. Okay, this is just for understanding. You need not sketch this location of roots in examination. This is just for understanding. So for this e raised to pi I by 6 will be at angle 30 degree. Suppose this angle is 30 degree, then this is the location of C0. C1 is I, so we know that this is I. So this is the location of C1, which is equal to I. Then C2 is 5 pi by 6. 5 pi by 6 means it is pi minus pi by 6. So because this is pi by 6, this angle is pi by 6. This is also pi by 6, this angle. So pi minus pi by 6 will be this much angle. So this is the location of C2. Then C3 is 7 pi I by 6. 7 pi I by 6 will be pi plus pi by 6. So location of C2 will be here in the lower half plane. C4 is minus I, so it will be here, and 11 pi by 6 can be written as 2 pi minus pi by 6. So 2 pi minus pi by 6 means it will be somewhere here. This is going to be C5. This is C4. So we can see there are 6 roots, and among these 6 roots, C3, C4 and C5 are in the lower half plane. These 3 roots are in the lower half plane, and they are not of our interest. We are interested in roots in the upper half plane only. So C0, C1 and C2 are in the upper half plane, and these 3 are in the lower half plane. So we can write among which only 3 roots C0, C1 and C2 are in the upper half plane. Or we can write that C3, C4 and C5 are not of our interest because they lie in the lower half plane. Are not of our interest because they lie in the lower half plane. So now in the next step, our interest is to calculate residue of given function f of z at C0, C1 and C2. Before that, first we observed our function f of z is z square over z raised to 6 plus 1, and we have denoted this by pz over qz. Now this if we denote all these roots by ck, where k is from 0, 1, 2 up to 5, then we can check that if we put value of p, if we find value of p at ck, then it is going to be ck square. And we can check that value of this pz at each of these roots is going to be non-zero, and our interest is in the roots in the upper half plane only. So we consider k from 0, 1, 2. So we can check for c0. If we consider p of c0, we have c0 is e raised to pi I by 6. So e raised to pi I by 6 value of p at this, and it is square of e raised to pi I by 6. So this is going to be e raised to pi I divided by 3, and this is cos pi by 3 plus I sin pi by 3, and this is non-zero complex number. So similarly we can check that value of p at each of these roots. P of c0 is non-zero, p of c1 is non-zero, and p of c2 is non-zero. Now we know that these ck's are roots of z raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, it is given, we have shown that ck raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0 are solutions of this equation. So if we put ck in q of z, we have ck raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0. So value of q at ck is 0 for each of these roots, but we will write for roots in the upper half plane only. So q of ck is nothing but ck raised to 6 plus 1 equal to 0. Q is 0, 1 and 2. Now we check derivative of qz. So qz is z raised to 6 plus 1. Derivative of qz will be 6 times z raised to 5. Or we can write one more step. Qz is z raised to 6 plus 1 implies q dash z is 6 times z raised to 5. And we can again clearly check that if we calculate value of q dash at any of these roots, then it remains non-zero. So here we have this q dash z equal to 6 into z raised to 5, and if we check value of q dash at ck, then it will remain non-zero. K is from 0, 1 and 2. Okay, for example, we can check for say c1. What is our c1? C1 is nothing but I. So q dash at c1 is going to be 6 into I raised to 5, which is always non-zero. This we can simplify as I raised to 4 into I. I raised to 4 means square of I square into I. So this is going to be 6I, which is non-zero. Similarly, we can check for k equal to 0 and k equal to 2. So value of q dash at each of these roots is non-zero. So what we have shown is f of z is equal to p of z over q of z, and value of p of z at ck is non-zero, value of q at ck is 0, and value of q dash at ck is non-zero for k equal to 0, 1 and 2. And clearly this p and q are analytic at this point ck, because p and q are polynomial functions and they are analytic everywhere. So therefore residue of f of z at z equal to ck is nothing but value of p at ck divided by value of q dash at ck. Now value of p at ck P is nothing but z square, so value of P at ck is ck square, so we substitute ck square here, and value of q dash at ck is 6 into ck raised to 5, k for 0, 1 and 2. So this is going to be 1 over 6 times ck raised to 3, because ck is non-zero, so we can cancel out. So this is the formula for residue which we obtain for particular this example. So we denote by bk, where k is 0, 1 and 2. So residue of f of z at z equal to ck is b suffix k, where bk is given by 1 over 6 times ck raised to 3, k runs from 0, 1, 2. Okay, we can write here also residue of f of z at z equal to ck, k for 0, 1 and 2. So once we have values of residues of f of z at z equal to ck, we can apply residue theorem. So now by residue theorem, improper integral from minus infinity to infinity fx dx, this is equal to 2 pi I times sum of residues of f of z. So there are 3 residues. For k equal to 0 we have b0, for k equal to 1 we have b1, and for k equal to 2 we have b2. So we substitute all these residues here. For k equal to 0 we have b0, and b0 will be 1 over 6 into c0 raised to 3. So 1 by 6 c0 cube plus 1 by 6, for k equal to 1 we have c1 cube plus 1 by 6, for k equal to 2 we have c2 cube. Okay, we are putting k equal to 0, 1 and 2 here. Now this we can again simplify. We are interested in c0 cube, so 1 by 6 here. Now c0 is e raised to pi I by 6. Okay, so we first we have c0 is e raised to pi I by 6, c1 is I, and c2 is e raised to 5 pi I by 6. So here we write one more step. c0 is e raised to pi I by 6 to the power 3 plus 1 by 6, c1 is I, so I raised to 3 plus 1 by 6, c2 is e raised to 5 pi I divided by 6 to the power 3, and this bracket completes. Okay, fine. So this is now 2 pi I times 1 over 6 times e raised to, here we will have e raised to pi I divided by 2 plus 1 by 6 times, this we rewrite as I square into I, plus 1 by 6 times, here we will have e raised to 5 pi I divided by 2. Okay, these 3 will cancel out. So this is now 2 pi I times, now we can simplify this e raised to pi I by 2 using Euler's formula. We have cos pi by 2 plus I sin pi by 2. Now cos pi by 2 is 0, sin pi by 2 is 1, so it is I. E raised to pi I by 2 is I. Here I square is minus 1, so this is going to be minus 1 by 6I. And now we simplify this again using Euler's formula. We have e raised to 5 pi I by 2 equal to cos 5 pi I by 2 plus I sin 5 pi I by 2. Cos 5 pi by 2 is 0, and this is 5 pi by 2 is in first quadrant. Okay, it is 2 pi plus 5 by 2. So in first quadrant sign is positive, so we have I sin pi by 2, so it is 1 by it is I, so here we have 1 over 6i. So therefore this is going to be 2 pi I, these two will cancel out, into 1 over 6i. So again this I will cancel out, here we have 3, so we have pi by 3. So what we obtain, minus infinity to infinity fx dx is nothing but pi by 3, and fx is here, fx is x square over x raised to 6 plus 1 dx is pi by 3, but we are asked the integral from 0 to infinity, and we know that this function is even function, so this can be rewritten as 2 times 0 to infinity x square divided by x raised to 6 plus 1 equal to pi by 3. Okay, because this function x square over x raised to 6 plus 1 is even function and this improper integral is convergent. So therefore integral from 0 to infinity x square over x raised to 6 plus 1 dx is nothing but pi divided by 6. Okay, so in this way we can apply residue theorem in evaluating certain type of improper integrals, and here in calculating residues we have used this result that we have discussed in earlier lecture also, that if function f of z is division of two analytic functions, that is p and q are analytic at point z0, value of p at z0 is non-zero, value of q at z0 is 0, and value of q dash at z0 is non-zero, then residue of f of z at z equal to z0 is given by value of p at z0 divided by value of q dash at z0. So this result is used here as well as in earlier lecture to find out residues of f of z at a certain point. Okay, so this is all about this lecture. I hope you like it. If you are watching this first time, I suggest you to watch lecture number 1 on residue integration of real integrals. Then you should go for this lecture number 6. So thank you. I hope you like it.